What it do? Welcome to the J-Boy Sports Podcast. Please like, share, and subscribe. Hit that notification bell. Click it to all so that you don't miss any of our glorious content. Make sure that you comment. I will respond. Ball is life. Also, hang on towards the end of this video for some other suggested videos that we know you will love. This is podcast number 6. This is episode 6. This is actually long overdue. I should have actually recorded this probably maybe even close to a week ago. But you know how things are. You get a little bogged down, you get caught up, and then you got to jump right back into things. We're going to start off today talking about Jaylen Brown, and we're really going to start focusing on some of this gambling stuff. That's the first thing we're going to focus on as of right now, because I actually didn't get a chance to touch on this the way I wanted to recently, but the gambling thing has taken some new turns, and it's actually resulted in people getting arrested. Now, Jaylen Brown, he actually has a slightly different outlook on some of the things that are happening. He is also, I think, the vice president of the Players Association, NBA Players Association, if that's what you call it. So let's listen to what he had to say and check out his thoughts, and we'll analyze it.
I saw the news yesterday that a former teammate and Hall of Fame player and coach were wrapped up in the allegations that they were. What was your reaction to that? And sort of how big of a problem do you think, or how big a challenge is it, the integrity issues right now for the NBA?
I'm not completely sure what's going on, but definitely as my job as vice president in the union is to get to the bottom of it and kind of figure it out. I know some of those guys personally. Obviously, Terry played here. It's not conducive of his character, but we'll get to the bottom of it as a union and figure out what the next steps forward is.
What does that process look like for you as a vice president? Like, what are kind of your next steps?
They have like a crisis management team, and they also have like investigative people on our side to get to the bottom of whatever the situation is and kind of go from there. Obviously, if those guys are innocent, it's not a great look for them publicly and media-wise, so we got to make sure if they are, that they're exonerated and their images are cleaned up.
One thing I do like about Jaylen Brown, I just wanted to jump in real quick here. Notice how he said that we're going to do everything in our power to make sure that they're taken care of. He did mention that that's not what I saw Terry, that means Terry Rozier, who was one of the people that was arrested for gambling, whatever this gambling sting is. And he said that's not the character I know of him, but we want to make sure that we take care of those guys. First thing we need to figure out is, as long as they are actually innocent, if they are innocent, then we don't want to we want to make sure that their images are cleaned up. That's a big thing, right? Just being accused of things in 2025 actually is almost, if not maybe even more detrimental to you than actually being accused of it. Because people just always remember that you were accused. Unfortunately, a lot of people don't believe in innocent till proven guilty, which is the law of the land. But it does look like Jaylen Brown so far has done a good job of making sure that he understands that and that he expresses that to the media, which I do appreciate. Let's listen to the rest of what he has to say.
But I think right now just kind of getting all the information, getting to the bottom of it is the most important thing.
From a personal perspective, as someone who played with Terry, just what was your reaction to yesterday's news?
I guess it was kind of crazy, kind of seeing all the stuff going on. Sometimes it's hard to tell what's real and what's not online on the internet because there's so much misinformation. So I didn't really have no reaction. I guess we'll get to the bottom of it and see what's what. Until then, everything is yet to be determined.
What's your personal feeling about the gambling climate around sports? Like, what are your feelings just around, that?
Me personally, I think, that whole world was introduced a couple years ago. And I don't think they took players into consideration, especially with, the energy and the behavior that goes around, gambling and how that directly correlates with players. We don't benefit from any of the profits or anything like that, but we got to deal with, a lot of the extra negativity and scrutiny behind all the gambling stuff. And then on top of that, it creates more integrity issues, et cetera. So I'm not sure what the answer is going forward. But definitely something that people got to spend more time having conversations about.
Again, I just want to jump in here. Jaylen Brown is really one of the smartest NBA players I think I've ever seen. And there's a lot of levels to how smart he actually is. I think he's like a fellow or whatever at Harvard. Like he's the guy's really smart. He graduated with all types of honors. He's just amazingly intelligent. I don't have all of his rundown, his entire resume outside of basketball right here in front of me right now, but if you Google it, you'll see that he's extremely intelligent. I really like what he said here too. I mean, again, he's a player, so he's going to take up for the players somewhat, which is fine though, because he said this stuff was just kind of thrown in there. All this gambling stuff was thrown in there, and there wasn't really a lot of support that was given to the players. And some of you say, well, why does it need to be support? Well, because you're taking major gambling, right, and you're just throwing it into the league. And Michael Porter Jr. talked about it a little bit, but he basically said, because his brother Jonte is kicked out the league for life for this, but he's like, listen, if you could help a couple of your homies come up and all you got to do is say, oh, I hurt myself in the third quarter, then why wouldn't you do that, you know? Well, he didn't say, why wouldn't you do that? He says some people would do that. And some people were mad at him for saying that, but I was like, yo, that's 100% on point with, unfortunately, what makes sense. That's the reason why somebody would do that, unfortunately. And then also he said, like, listen, we haven't even talked about the ethics around this or the position it puts a lot of players in. And I agree with that too. And it's similar to like this. If you were a teacher, right? If a teacher was caught at a strip club, or had an OnlyFans, there have been teachers that have had OnlyFans, and they lost their job. But for politicians who have sex tapes out or sex scandals out, and sometimes they just brush it off, and they continue to be politicians. Well, why is it different? Well, because some people will argue that, the morality of what you're doing is different than the morality of what I'm doing because we have different jobs. And I've always been somewhat against that, if I'm going to be honest with you, because I just don't think that's fair. And then some people say life is not fair, but shouldn't we all have a similar standard, a similar moral code that we're held to? You know, I always thought that was interesting. So a player can't gamble, but everybody around the player can gamble. And people get mad at the player when they're doing the gambling and things are not working the way that they want it to. Like they want the player to do this, or they want them to sit in or sit out or be hurt or score 20 or not score 15, like score the first basket. All this stuff, you're messing up the integrity of the game. But you're also messing with the player. Players receive death threats because of these things. So to that extent, I 100% understand what Jaylen Brown is saying. Let's finish up the last part here and get his overall 2 cents on the whole thing.
Sometimes it puts you guys in a tough spot because people are asking you guys questions and it's like you don't necessarily know what to do with that. Is that something that you feel like the league could have done a better job as far as preparing players for like those kind of scenarios?
Yeah, for sure. I think a lot more could have been done to help players or prepare players, but even in the aftermath, I don't think little care or attention to detail goes into it. They're like, you make X amount of money or X, Y, and Z, you should be able to deal with all the extra negativity, the people approaching you about parlays. It creates a negative discourse around the game and players when people have money involved. Obviously, it's a part of it, but definitely, some of the experiences, the fan engagement, the fan interactions that we've had over the years where, fans feel like they can come on the court or, and touch players and things like that is, it's leading to situations that we can avoid if more conversations were had right now.
I do want to jump in here again real quick. I know I keep jumping in, but in this one, he also makes a good point. It does seem like I am of the belief that, hey, you make millions of dollars, you got to figure it out. But the truth of the matter is that with a lot of these players, they're not really, these are like kids that get a lot of money. I'm in my late, what would you, let's just say most people are later at least into their, I'd say most people are in their mid to late 30s when they receive large amounts of money, when they start to really make large amounts of money. At least most people. These people are getting money at 22, 23 years old. So to Jaylen Brown's point, it does make sense to say like, hey, you just think we're supposed to be okay. You just throw these things in, add it in, and fans think they could touch us, and people running on the court. He has a point. A lot of those things are because of the gambling. And so but they're not really taking into too much account how this affects the players. Again, I do agree with what he's saying there.
Is there anything the league can actually do to protect players better in terms of, like, obviously you guys are subjected to stuff on social media and your DMs and stuff, but also in arena?
I think be open to having a conversation. I don't think yet once from my conversations with the union of the NBA has been like, how can we protect players more with the environment? There's been little to no conversation around that. It's all about how can we, a lot of times how can we increase business and increase revenue, and I'm not sure, if we're having enough conversations of how can, like, what is the aftermath or the consequences some of that stuff has.
Final couple questions for Jaylen.
Does it affect this game tonight at all?
What do you mean? What?
The conversation around it.
I'm not sure.
The gambling. I mean, does it affect you guys on the floor?
From a basketball standpoint?
Yeah.
I don't think so. It don't affect me. I don't think so. I just come out. I don't pay attention to any of that stuff. You know what I mean? People bet parlays. You know what I mean? Don't bet on me. I'll tell you that right now. But I don't know how it affects everybody else. I guess that's a personal question.
So again, he's saying, like, listen, man, y'all looking at these players and these coaches, and if they're guilty, they're guilty. It is what it is. I don't think he's defending them to that extent, but he is saying, like, this was thrown on players specifically, and just out of, and it's all about, they're about making money. He even said it. It's always about business. He didn't say making money. He chose his words carefully, but that's a cue word for it. It's about making money, okay? That's all they really want to do. But it's affecting the game because it affects the consistency and the I can't find the word right now, but the authenticity is another way you can say it, as far as the authenticity of the game. When you start adding in betting, things get weird, right? Things get real weird. And then he said at the end, listen, don't bet on me, because I'm not out here trying to play for you, which is good. It's good to hear players say that, because it shouldn't be about that. You shouldn't care about what your betting odds are, but it's so hard when it's everywhere around you, unless you're really just against it. There's a lot of things you're exposed to when you become a top-notch athlete. One of them is a lot of extra money, women, drugs, just you begin to think that, I'm sure that you begin to believe that you're better than a lot of other people because you have more than them. You know what I mean? You begin to look at yourself as you're the celebrity, they're under you. And even if you're not trying to be mean with it, you know that. You know that a lot of people don't have anywhere near the resources that you have, especially the people that look like you in most cases. You know what I mean? So it's a different thing. And you have to fight against that. You got to fight against the women. You got to fight against the drugs. You got to fight against the narcissism. And most guys can't do that. Michael Porter Jr. talks about that. Most guys can't do that. It's very difficult. So now you insert gambling, and now you got to fight against the gambling. But everybody else is gambling except you. That's difficult. So, I do feel for the players to an extent, but morality is something that's not preached as much as it should be, right? Especially in America. I'm going to keep it 100% with you. If you're listening from another place, I know one of our prime listeners is from Spain. One of my favorite people to talk to on the channel. And, I don't know how it is there as far as the greed is concerned, or better yet, the morality, the honor, the dignity. Asian countries, in the Oriental Asian realm are very high on dignity and honor and respect. That is not a thing here in the United States the way it used to be. It's all about get money fast and get as much as you can. And that leaves a lot of gaps for, morality, standards, and things like that. And so it's hard. Everybody else is gambling, but you can't, right? So this was a fairly decent sized segment, but it's important. I wanted to talk about this as far as the gambling is concerned. But now let's talk specifically about who was officially arrested for that. Yeah, so officially who was arrested for that is Chauncey Billups, Terry Rozier, and Damon Jones. And so they were arrested because they were caught in some type of a gambling ring. Now, the extent to what each one of them has been caught in, I believe, is slightly different. As far as I know, it doesn't seem like it's the same exact. It doesn't seem like they all did the same exact thing. It seems like they got in trouble for different things, and so essentially, what that means is that if it was just one thing, that might actually even be better for the league, because you could just kill it all at the same time. But in this case, it looks like there's multiple different things going on at the same time. So let's listen to what Shams has to say. I believe he's talking specifically about Chauncey Billups and Terry Rozier here. So let's check this out.
Just tell everyone everything they need to know. What has happened this morning?
Greeny, Portland Trailblazers head coach Chauncey Billups and Miami Heat guard Terry Rozier have both been arrested this morning. Billups at around 6 a.m. in Portland, Oregon, and Rozier around 6 a.m., I'm told, in Orlando, where the Heat were playing last night. Rozier's been arrested for his involvement in alleged sports gambling, prop bets, and Billups, ABC News is reporting, is tied to an illegal poker operation tied to the mafia. And so the FBI has been investigating this situation for several months, and in Rozier's case, at least 2 years. And today is making arrests. There is a press conference that is set by the FBI. The Eastern District of New York has been leading this investigation. I'm told FBI Director Kash Patel has also been increasingly involved in recent weeks. He will be leading the press conference today as well. But this is really seismic news in the NBA for a sitting NBA head coach in Chauncey Billups to be arrested, taken into custody for alleged illegal gambling, as well as Terry Rozier for sports betting, allegedly. 2 arrests made this morning. There are expected to be numerous arrests also tied to both of these situations.
So the NBA wakes up this morning in the midst of, I suppose you would have to say, a sports league's worst nightmare. Is there any indication that the league had any idea this was coming? Did they know any of this might happen this morning?
As of last night, I was told the NBA did not have knowledge of these specific arrests. This has been led by the FBI. The FBI made their arrests early this morning. But the NBA has been investigating Terry Rozier, Malik Beasley. Terry Rozier was cleared by the NBA investigators over the last couple years. That's why he's been playing in games. Malik Beasley, a free agent, has not been cleared by the NBA's investigation. That's been ongoing. As of about 15-20 minutes ago, I was told Malik Beasley was not taken into custody today as part of these gambling investigations and arrests today.
And so that's Shams Serenia basically telling us about, just giving us the rundown. So Chauncey Billups was basically arrested because he was involved in some type of gambling ring and some type of poker thing. And then Terry Rozier was arrested because he was actually doing some illegal gambling on prop bets and stuff like that, it seems like. Do I know the full difference between all of them? Me personally, no. I'm not into gambling. I'm very much against it, actually. I don't like to lose my money. I'm already poor. I'm poor enough. I don't need to be losing money, and then I can't afford to buy my kids sneakers or sweatpants for gym or things like that. So I try to watch my money as much as possible. But yeah, this is a problem. It's a big problem for the NBA. Chauncey Billups is a coach. He's also a Hall of Famer. I think he's a Hall of Famer. Is Chauncey Billups a Hall of Famer? Is Chauncey Billups a Hall of Famer? Yes, he is now.
Chauncey Billups is a Hall of Famer.
Yep, he was part of the class of 2024. So he's one of the best players of all time to be a Hall of Famer, and this looks bad. It looks bad, you know what I mean? But what looks even worse when you're talking about Chauncey Billups is that look at this picture that we have right here. This is him wearing a Dookie Brown Klutch Sports hoodie to his federal court appearance. And then they're saying this is crazy. This is what the thing says. This is a bad signal for LeBron and Klutch Sports. Chauncey is telling them, y'all better get me out of here or I'm snitching. And it's saying, good one, Chauncey, right? And then if you look at this other one, if you couldn't really see it, I have it zoomed up here so that you can see, everything as far as like how exactly what's on that shirt. Yeah, it says specifically. You can see that it says Klutch Sports Group, and it doesn't say it once; it says it twice. So that's an indication of something that needs to be talked about too. Why is he wearing a Klutch Sports shirt? I didn't even know he was with Klutch. Let's actually check that out. Is Chauncey Billups signed with Klutch Sports?
Yes, Chauncey Billups is with Klutch Sports.
You hear it?
Represented by agent Andy Miller, Miller negotiated Billups' recent contract extension with the Portland Trail Blazers, which was finalized in April 2025.
So he is a part of Klutch Sports, right? He's a part of it. And you know why that is interesting? Before we jump on to Terry Rozier, let me jump on to, I mean, there's not really much more about Terry Rozier, to be honest with you. Terry Rozier is in trouble because he's in trouble. There's been videos of him, and it looks like he's not getting back on defense or faking injuries or whatever. And I'll let you be the judge of that. The FBI will decide that. Terry just has not been the same since he left Boston, in my opinion. I mean, I guess at first he was decent on the Bobcat or the Hornets, the Bobcat, whatever they are, the Hornets right now. But he just has. You haven't heard. I actually thought he could have been a star, and I have not really heard anything about him. I heard a little bit early on the Hornets, but then after that, you don't hear nothing about him. He's on Miami now, I think, but, you know, just nothing. Hasn't done nothing. So we'll see what happens with that. But what's more interesting about this Chauncey deal is let's take a look at this other graphic here. So Damon Jones, right? Damon Jones, it says here, if you look at this, before the February 9, 2023 Lakers game against the Bucks, Jones texted an unnamed conspirator that a player was out and they should bet the Bucks. The player was not yet on the injury report. He also gave information on the 2023-24 Lakers, including player 4, who the Doge said was one of the Lakers' best players that season, which is probably LeBron James. And he and LeBron James have been friends for a long time. And let's see, is he also with Klutch? Is Damon Jones signed to Klutch Sports? All right, so there's no indication that he is them, but it does say, let me see. But obviously LeBron James is his longtime friend. But it doesn't say necessarily that he is a part of Klutch. Let me just see this real quick, this New York Times article. They are saying he was sharing secrets about LeBron, but he was a coach on the team, I believe. Let me just see. Was Damon Jones a coach on the Lakers? No, he wasn't a coach on the team, so then how was he getting this information? So he was just hanging out with LeBron. Because they're saying this was in 2023-24. It says he wasn't a coach. But he was what, just hanging out with LeBron James for the heck of it? I wonder if they're still friends. Interesting. But you know what else is interesting? They have not asked LeBron James about this publicly. Why? Why is it that LeBron James gets to never be asked tough questions? They never ask him about how he's involved in any of these things. I find that interesting. Maybe you're not guilty, right? Let's just say you're not. But then why is everybody else around you always guilty? Chauncey Billups, Damon Jones, and I'll do you one better. Let's take a look here, because there's also a report that Mav Carter, take a look at this. So he had reportedly admitted to using an illegal bookie to bet thousands of dollars on NBA games. Now, why he didn't get in trouble for this, he was actually interviewed by the FBI, if I'm not mistaken. Now let's take a look at this other little piece of information I have here. It says that he was interviewed as a non-target witness in a larger federal investigation into illegal sports gambling run by former baseball player Wayne Nix. Nix later pleaded guilty to running the gambling operation. Okay, so he was questioned and interviewed, and he admitted to doing it. But they said he was never charged. The outcome, he was never charged with the crime. because it stated that he cooperated with the investigation and was never contacted again. And it says that no violation of NBA rules. The NBA bans players, team officials, and league staff from betting on its games. However, these rules do not apply to a business manager like Carter. So he did not violate any league rules. Okay, so because he was not in the NBA, he's just a business partner. They can't actually get him for any federal investigation. But this is all very fishy, smells very bad. Besides Terry Rozier, the three other people that we know have been two have been arrested. One was questioned. Why do they all have ties to LeBron James? And if you think LeBron James isn't tied to Klutch, you're an idiot. I'm just going to tell you straight up and down. You're one of the true idiots in the world. He's definitely connected to them. There's no doubt about that. And he pulls strings back there. There's no way that is not true. No way. There's no way. Everybody that's tied to Klutch conveniently kisses his open butt cheeks 24/7, but he has nothing to do with it. Nothing. When they disrespect other greats, he has nothing to do with it. Nothing. This all just smells once again of Klutch, and this is some of the reasons why people are done with LeBron James and they're ready for him to bounce. Vamoose. Adios, amigo. His time is limited. Very limited. And these things, I think, add to it. But back to this investigation. I mean, this is messed up stuff, man. So we'll see how this all turns out. It's not good for the NBA. Looks bad. Challenges the authenticity. But also, your biggest star, or at least one of your biggest stars in LeBron James, why are all these people that are doing things they shouldn't be doing tied to him? Why is that? Very strange. LeBron James was supposed to bring the NBA to prominence. Or supposed to continue the greatness of those before him, the Karl Malones, the John Stocktons, the Michael Jordan, the Charles Barkleys, the Shaquille O'Neals, the Kobe Bryants, the Tim Duncans, the Kevin Garnetts, Allen Iverson. He's supposed to continue these legacies. But it seems like his influence is continuing to ruin a lot of these legacies in the NBA. So we'll stay close to that story and we'll see what happens with that. But for now, we're just gonna leave that be. It is what it is. We'll see what happens. And just one more thing I want to note with the whole steroid scandal. I haven't really done a video on that because there's not enough. But what we do know is that his wife was tied to one of those people involved in that scandal that was giving big-time athletes steroids. His wife was tied to that. So if his wife was tied to that, why, again, why is everybody around you but you involved in shady things? Very weird. Let's move on and talk about our next topic, which is Michael Jordan has recently been appearing on NBC and giving his 2 cents on different things. The latest one was load management. We did a video on that on the channel. Make sure you check it out. But Kmart from No Chill Gil's Arena said something that was very interesting, right? And he said something about how, honestly, Mike cannot actually tell the truth on everything that he feels. So let's check this out and see what he has to say.
No. How can he be honest in his assessment when most of the population look at you as like you number one on Mount Rushmore? How can you go on there and give your honest critique where it don't come across as Mike hating again, dog? We look at Michael Jordan individually as the greatest basketball player, right? Tom Brady we look at as the most winningest quarterback, but no one would consider Tom Brady the best quarterback at that position. Did he win 7 Super Bowls? Yes. Now taking anything off of what he accomplished, he went 299 for a reason. Tom Brady can go in the booth and talk football because it's totality of the sport. It's more moving pieces than it is basketball. I just don't think Mike can be honest without it coming across as hate. We get the old hate right now. And I think we're as honest as we could possibly be on this couch. There's no way that he can be that.
These guys' images are so top tier that they can't tell you the truth. It'll hurt your feelings if you just had 38 and Mike sit there and be like,
I want to see his eyes watering. Yeah, he was crying without crying.
Now, funny enough, I actually think this is very interesting here because I do think there's truth to what they're saying. I think when you're Michael Jordan and some of these other greats, that's why I give a lot of credit to Shaquille O'Neal and Charles Barkley. A lot of people are sensitive. They have soft skin. They really don't like Charles Barkley and Shaquille O'Neal, but I love Charles Barkley and Shaquille O'Neal because at the end of the day, they're going to keep it real with everybody and your mama. They tell the truth. Now, you may not like their truth. You may not like what they say or how they think, but at the end of the day, these are two great players. Two of the greatest players of all time. Charles Barkley is definitely one of the top power forwards of all time, but I already said players. Just one of the best, right? Charles Barkley is a top 20 player, I think. He's at least, at worst, top 30, but he's definitely a top 75, which is all that really matters, right? And so is Shaquille O'Neal. Shaquille O'Neal is a top 10 player for me. And a champion. He's got 4 rings, so you can't take anything away from him. When they say stuff, dudes get sensitive. They get upset. Now with Mike chooses not to go that far into that because, like they said, what are you going to say? And, they're going to call you a hater. They called the dudes on Gil's Arena a hater. And honestly, I think sometimes they're pretty real about it. Not Gil. To me, Gil just kind of says whatever. He's just trying to make money. But specifically, Rashad says a lot of stuff where it's like he keeps it real. And then what does he get? Oh, Rashad don't know what he's talking about, blah, 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 blah. Especially if you say something against LeBron James. His fans are going to lose their marbles and lose their minds. But if you're Mike, what do you have to gain from telling the complete, honest truth other than you're sick and tired of LeBron goblins, in my opinion? They're the main ones that have ruined a lot of basketball, in my opinion. I think even if you're a fan of somebody like a KD, a Steph, or anybody like that, I don't think you go to the extremes that these LeBron goblins will go to. You may not like something that somebody says from a past generation, but you don't take it as far as those people do. They get real weird, man, real weird. Attacking your family. They start talking about you and not talking about what you said about LeBron. You ain't never had nothing. What does this have to do with me? I'm comparing him to other players. I'm not a player in the NBA. I never played in the NBA. Why would I compare him to myself as far as that's concerned? So I think there's some truth to it. Swaggy P was a little disrespectful at the end, talking about him crying. You got to lay off my boy Mike, man. Mike don't want no trouble. But I think Mike in his own way, especially with that load management thing, is saying, like, listen, I'm not going to point at nobody in particular, but this is some soft stuff. This is soft as Charmin, my man, So I do think it's good to hear voices like Mike's because, some of these guys are out of control. But just know, if you're somebody that's expecting him to go way out the box and say some, like, LeBron's done a terrible job, like, he's not going to say that. That Mike has never taken the approach of, I want everybody to know everything. I'm going to be an open book. He doesn't do that. He told you in the first episode, I'm enjoying my retirement. I'm spending time with my family where I didn't have time to do that before. Right? So that's where Mike is at this particular moment. That's where Mike's at. Which leads us to our next Gil's Arena thing. We're going to talk about Rashad McCants, right? And so what McCants is basically going to tell us about is the problems that he has with the fact that people are trying to bash Cooper Kupp. Now, Cooper Flagg, Cooper Kupp, I think, was the MVP of the Super Bowl when the Rams won. Now, Cooper Flagg has been experiencing some backlash for no reason whatsoever, really, because people think he should be playing better or doing better. But the thing is, Jason Kidd put him at point guard. And I think he's playing out of position. But let's listen to what Rashad McCants has to say about that, about where he's got him playing right now.
All he had to do was say, I know who this is. That's all he had to do. Say, I know who this is, and it will be good. But instead, here we are. But listen, I'm going to be very, very honest. The Dallas Mavericks ain't doing no justice for Cooper Flagg because y'all trying to cover the Luka Doncic. Putting him at the point guard position, Jason Kidd is a point guard, is the audacity. It's absurd. You got D'Lo over there, and he's sitting there like, why we playing Cooper at the point? Why Cooper don't got no assists, and he playing the point? But I thought you were just going to throw it ahead and pitch it ahead and give it to and let them go and do all that. But that didn't happen. When you talk about Cooper being set up for success, he's supposed to be the next Dirk Nowitzki for the Dallas Mavericks, not the next Jason Kidd. I don't know what the they thinking over there with all those guys behind the bench, but Cooper Flagg is like a Keith Van Horn. He's one of those guys who can get you 20 and 10. Put him in position, mid-post, let him exploit the mismatches. But he's so busy now passing the ball to guys who can't really do nothing with the ball.
Did he not get the ball down the court? Like, I think out of that group, he is the best dribbler. We can tell. He looks like he's the fastest player on the team. We can tell. So, given my fastest guy who has better dribbling than everybody on there to push this break, you're talking about a 6'10", throwing it to AD throwing it back to him. Like, that's what they see. That's what the vision is. They are looking for bigs that can bring the ball up and start the offense. They don't need someone to come in and, all right, we're going to set the pick. Okay, you're going to turn 5. That game is dead. This game is all 5 come downhill and attack. Okay. He's 18 years old, man. He had a double-double. He looked nervous
out there. Why you keep
nervous.
saying 18?
Because he is 18.
So Jason Kidd should know that when you got D'Lo, you brought D'Lo in to be the point guard. Why did you bring him in? Does the backup not move to the point guard position?
If we want that to be.
If you don't want that to be, what's the result?
So then we're going to go
30-point blowout.
But you're blaming the point guard position.
Yes, you have to blame the whole setup of the whole game.
Yeah.
What else you're doing with Cooper Flagg is you're taking him away from the basket because he's out now on the perimeter when he could be down on the block for offensive rebounding opportunities, for low post opportunities. All the things closer to the basket now is away. Like the things that you're taking away from him, experimenting on the first game, when you, like, what are we doing?
Yep. I tend to agree with Rashad McCants. And honestly, I agree with Rashad McCants on a lot of different things. There's a lot of people out here that have something to say about him that are always complaining. They're usually LeBron goblins, once again, because he speaks out against some of the stuff with LeBron. So people don't like that, so they're going to automatically try to put him in the bucket and hate on him. Paul Pierce was another one they were hating on for a while. But at the end of the day, Rashad knows what he's talking about, in my opinion. He knows what he's talking about. I actually was one of the people, before I even heard him say this, that was like, why is Cooper Flagg playing point guard? Now, somebody mentioned this to me, and I didn't think about it, but Jason Kidd actually had Giannis Antetokounmpo at first, right? I think he was Giannis's first coach, and he had Giannis playing some point guard at times. Now, if that is a precursor and an indication of what Cooper could be, then maybe, I guess I kind of see where he's going with that. But I don't know, man. I think Giannis is explosive going north and south. He's adding more to his game. He just had a game winner the other day that was nice. He had a nice little behind, he had a Kobe joint, Kobe and Mike joint. He went over the back shoulder. It was nice. But most of his game has been, he's not the most athletic, but for his size, he's extremely athletic, if that makes sense. Super fast, very strong, and goes north and south really, really well. That works for a point guard. All you have to do if you're a decent point guard really is run as fast. And I do this. I'm not the tallest person in the world at all. But I can get to my spots because I'm fast. I'm really good off the dribble as far as like getting to the basket. I just run as fast as I can, north and south, and then whoever's with me gets the ball. It's that simple. Cooper Flagg is not that, though. Cooper Flagg is a more skilled player, in my opinion. He does need to be closer to the basket, like Rashad said, because he has the skills to score without doing that. Giannis is was extremely raw coming in. And he's managed to be great because he's just a physical freak of nature. They call him the Greek freak for a reason. But he's getting more skilled, but skill was not the name of his game. I don't even think skill was necessarily the number one part of Jason Kidd's game. I think Jason Kidd made Giannis a version of him that's not as gifted as a passer, nowhere near as gifted as Kidd was. But I don't think Kidd's game was really based on skill. It was based on excellent vision, great passing, and really good defense. And he was a big, strong guard. So I think those things work really well for Jason Kidd, but I don't think that's... And so for Giannis, really good on defense, super fast, very strong. You know, it doesn't have great vision, but when you're going to the basket like that, people are going to be open because they got to set up a wall to stop you. But is that Cooper Flagg? No. Cooper Flagg is nowhere near as athletic as Giannis. They don't call him Cooper Freak Flagg or Freak Flagg. They're never going to call him that. Now, is he Luka Doncic? No. Way more athletic than Luka Doncic. Way more athletic than Austin Reeves. But he's not like upper echelon freak of nature. He ain't Russ. He ain't Bron. He ain't Blake Griffin. All right? He is a more skilled player. So putting him at point guard is stupid, especially when you got D'Angelo Russell, who can put up numbers. If you let Russell play his game, he can give you 10 to 15 points, 10 plus assists a game. Cooper Flagg coming down and having no assist and having to worry about getting people involved is taken away from his game. So I hope Jason Kidd takes him out of that position because, like Rashad McCants said, I actually hate that. I don't think that helps Cooper Flagg at all. Now, may I be proven wrong in the long run? Maybe, but we'll see. But also with Anthony Davis out and Kyrie is still out, there's no point to this. You're just losing games. Like you said, they got blown out by 30. You're losing games for no reason whatsoever. Don't be losing games because you want to experiment. Like, I don't. Kyrie will be back. And technically, that roster should be a championship level roster. They should be competing. But if you got Cooper Flagg trying to find himself at the point guard position, I don't see how that's a possibility. But I also thought it was interesting how McCants said they're trying to replace him with Luka. And if that's the case, then the Mavs are just a dumb organization because putting Cooper Flagg at any position, you can get the same love potentially if he develops. Worrying about him being the point guard so they don't remember Luka was a point guard is ridiculous. So hopefully that's not the case. We'll hope and pray that is not the case at all, right? Not the case at all. Our next story revolves around Michael Porter Jr. I got to be the only person online doing full videos on Michael Porter Jr. And you know what? I'm going to tell you something. My impression of the NBA right now, LeBron is on his way out. So for those creators that you guys, some of you are following, that just talk about LeBron every day. Now, trust me, I'm not a fan of LeBron James, but I do think the LeBron worshipers have a point. There are people that do use that man for clicks. There's a definite. Even me, my top videos of all time. My number one video was a video about Kobe Bryant. That's the most I ever got, most views. But a lot of my content that gets consistent views are the videos about LeBron. And I don't do it because I'm just looking necessarily for views. I try not to do it that way. I try to make sure they're relevant. But to me, some people just reach for the stars to talk about LeBron James as much as possible. And I personally I won't say I have a problem with it, but I see it too. So they have a point when they say that, even though they're annoying. But I know that at some point basketball is going to be about more than just him. So I'm trying to talk about new people. People like Michael Porter Jr., who I think is interesting. And I'd love to interview him and have a conversation with him personally if I could. Now, what Michael Porter Jr. is talking about here is that he said, I don't need no PR, if you look at this graphic. Basketball is my passion, not my purpose, which I think is interesting. That's why I'm unapologetically me. You understand? And I love this quote, and I love the things he's been saying. There's been people telling him to shut up. He needs PR. No. I don't know if you've been paying attention, but myself and a lot of people in this world, but specifically in America, are tired of being lied to. We're tired of being manipulated. We're tired of dealing with people that are not who they say they are. Even if you're not that good, then be honest about you not being that good. Stop misleading people. So let's listen to what Michael Porter Jr. had to say, and then we'll move on from there.
Everybody's like, oh, he needs a PR person. I'm doing this on purpose. I don't want to deal with the pressure of showing up every day and putting on a facade. I would rather be super, overly honest about my shortcomings, my flaws, my vices, because I don't want the expectation to walk around as this dude that I'm not. I'd rather show up as I am with everybody knowing that I'm trying to grow, trying to develop my relationship with God. So that's why when I'm saying these things on podcasts, that's where I'm coming from, because I know how to get on camera and say the perfectly PR right answer. You know what I mean? I know how to get on camera and not ruffle any feathers. I've been doing media since I was in high school. Since I became ranked, people were interviewing me, putting a camera in my face. I know how to do that.
So that's Michael Porter Jr. speaking on why he doesn't want PR. And I have to say, again, I really like listening to Michael Porter Jr. speak. I think that he has a lot of good things to say. He's the most honest athlete I may have ever seen. And if you look at this right here, right in front of you, what does it say? It says, I don't need no PR. Basketball is my passion, not my purpose. That's why I'm unapologetically me. And I mean, that's a powerful quote, right? Basketball is my passion. That means he's passionate about basketball, but it's not his purpose. And he mentioned wanting to get closer to God and different things like that. Your purpose should always be bigger than your passions. And what is your purpose? Well, when I think of purpose, I think of your standards, your moral code, your want to help others, your truth, your want to be your true, authentic, and honest self. And that's what I think Michael Porter Jr. is talking about, and that's what I have to respect and appreciate about him. He could come out here, he said, and give the cookie cutter answers. He's been doing it since he was in high school. And, Jason Whitlock, I know some people really don't like him, but one of the things he says a lot, if you actually ever listen to his show, is that people, the athletes, they know you're going to be a star athlete most of the time when you're really young. There's some dudes that make it later and become something crazy later, but most of the time they already know. He said in high school I was already doing interviews and people were looking at me, right? And if you ever watch some of his tapes from back in the day, Michael Porter Jr. was a beast coming out, man. He just had the back injury, but other than that, man, he was an animal. He's like 6'10" with a ratchet. I still think his handle could be stronger and his driving could be stronger. If he ever put those two things together, I mean, he'd be really, really tough. That's the only thing to me keeping him from being a superstar. It's just if he had if he needs a higher motor and just if he could attack the basket better, it'd be a wrap. And maybe a little tighter on the handles. But he was an animal. I remember watching tapes of him before he made it to the NBA, before he made it to college. In high school, he was like that. So, but he's saying here, it's my passion. It's not my purpose is to tell people the truth, to explain how we could be better, to be a real person, not just a basketball player. You know what I mean? And I respect that. I respect people that are honest. I don't like cookie cutter people. I don't like people that don't tell you who they really are. And I got to admit, it's not easy when you're a famous person to let people in like that because you're already famous. How much do people need to know about you? But I can tell who's real and who's not. And I like real people. And even if you don't give me every single aspect of your life, he tells a lot. But for those people that don't even tell a lot, just tell the truth. Right? That's all I ask for. Just tell the truth. So I really respect people that tell the truth. And so I'm always going to, unless he does something completely egregious, I'm going to be a supporter of Michael Porter Jr. And hopefully one day I get to interview him. I love to interview him, man. I would love to interview him. If anybody knows him, hook a brother up, man. I got to send him a message. Love to interview him for my channel. But I'm going to keep supporting him. I hope the Nets goes well. I know it's going to be an uphill battle all year. But I always believed he could be a really good player. I think he was on Denver, but he can be even better. And hopefully he will. So we'll see what happens. But hopefully he'll keep talking because I love listening to, his conversations. So Michael Porter Jr., if you hear this, man, hook a brother up with an interview, man. We could talk about some great stuff, I promise. Moving forward, we only got 2 more left here. I think we only got 2 more left, or 3. Might be... Actually, no. We only got 2 more left here. 2 more. So right now, we're going to listen to Allen Iverson. Allen Iverson We're going to listen to him because he's talking about load management. And I did a video about Michael Jordan talking about that. I'm pretty sure I've done a video. Maybe I haven't done the video, but, you know, Kobe used to talk about that. It's John Stockton. I did a video about him talking about that. So let's check out and see what Allen Iverson has to say about that.
You could never come to me and talk to me about load management. Like, AI, you're not playing tonight. Why? We're resting you. You're resting me like you're resting me. That's not load management. That's a suspension, man.
Yeah, what we doing?
You know what I mean? Like,
they can't do that.
In the doc, they said they had to hide your jersey to prevent you from playing when you were hurt.
Like, tomorrow we have practice. Rest me then.
Yeah.
That's when you can rest me. Don't rest me during the game.
Don't make any sense.
That's crazy work.
That was Allen Iverson on the Kelce Brothers podcast, and I had to chuckle at that last part. Basically, he still don't like the practice. You notice he said, yo, we got practice tomorrow. Rest me then. And if you don't know what I'm referencing, you haven't been watching basketball long enough, or sports in general, because he had one of the greatest rants of all time when he said, we talking about practice, because people were getting on him for sitting out of practice. But he's like, not a game, practice. And Allen Iverson said it straight out, not a game. He said, you don't even come to me with that stuff. And that's what's funny. And let me tell you something, man. Let me tell you something. What Allen Iverson and John Stockton and Kobe Bryant and Michael Jordan and all these guys were really saying is that, hey, yo, you don't even disrespect me by coming to me and telling me to sit out a game if I can play. Don't even disrespect me. Nothing makes me angrier, and I'm going to be honest with you. There's a lot of grown men simping for professional athletes, specifically in basketball, because people don't sit out in football. They don't do that. You got 17 games. You need to play. You got to catch them all like Pokemon and get the best record you can and build a camaraderie with your team. And that's one of the things Mike said in my other load management video was, hey, yo, I'm playing because we need to build that camaraderie, build that toughness so we know what to do when things get tough. Okay? You don't just magically wake up one day and it works. Which is why I get so annoyed watching players like the game that was on tonight. It's a Thursday for me as I'm recording this, and basically the NFL has Thursday night games all the time now. It wasn't always like that, but now it is. I like it. I like watching my football. You know, having it spread out a little bit is nice. However, basketball seems to be now taking a back seat. They only had one game on tonight, and the game was the Suns versus the Clippers. And guess what? The Clippers sat out Kawhi Leonard and James Harden. So what the freak is the point of watching the games on primetime, and you're the only game on TV, but guess what? Your star players don't even play. And this is what is killing basketball. It's killing it. So if you're one of the grown men that's simping for a, rich millionaire athletes, some will be billionaires by the time it's all said and done, stop it. Stop it. You're a grown man. Their money is not your money. They need to be playing these games because that's what they're paid to do. That's what Allen Iverson is telling you, bruh. He said you wouldn't even come to me with that. I hear men all the time talk about it's a different league. Now I hear guys talking about it's the league telling me not to play. It's the league telling them not to play. It's the coaches. It's the doctors. They got to listen to the coaches and the doctors. Did Allen Iverson say he was listening to anybody about that? Nah, he said don't even come to talk to me about that. Don't even make your way over here. Don't even make eye contact, B. Not happening. I need more NBA players in today's game to have that attitude. And that's one of the reasons that watching the game now is not as easy as it used to be. There are some good players. There's some really good teams. I like watching OKC play because I know Shea is going to play every game. I know that. But a lot of these other teams and a lot of these other stars always sitting out, man. Always. Even it's just stupid, man. It's just stupid. There's the only player I know that plays on a really good team that always plays is Steph. Literally is Shea. Even Steph be sitting out. knee contusions. What the? My boy that's a trainer told me that all that is a bruise. Get your behind off the bench and play, man. And you also, Iverson and them be talking about how, like, you never know who paid to get a ticket, man. Allen Iverson, not enough people talk about him, but it seems like he's starting to get a little bit more play now. When he was on the Kelce brothers show, they were really excited to talk to him because, Jason Kelce was a Philadelphia Eagle, won a Super Bowl, great player for us. One of the best centers of all time in league history, not just Eagle history. And, he was a Philadelphia Eagle. So, of course, Allen Iverson was the thing, bro. Allen Iverson was the league. In a league with Kobe Bryant, Shaquille O'Neal, Tim Duncan, Kevin Garnett, Dirk Nowitzki, Steve Nash, Jason Kidd, Amari Stoudemire, and then Melo and Bron came later, and, CP3 and Deron Williams. Allen Iverson was at the top of that joint. Not just scoring-wise, because he was a killer on the court, but also his influence, man. I don't really like the tattoos and the braids. I'm going to be honest. Not my thing, personally. But AI was authentically himself. I respected it on him. Everybody else is a follower. Everybody else is copying. He had the tats. He had the bling. He had the big clothes back then. That's what we did. We looked dumb. It is what it is. And he had the braids. And he had the I don't care, this is me. Number 3, huge shoes, small dude. It was funny. But he was that guy. And when they talk about influence, you can't talk about the NBA or NBA influence without mentioning Allen Iverson. So if he valued getting on that court and playing every night, being the heart and soul of the city, and in fact, just to say this too, Allen Iverson is in a rare category for me of dude that didn't win a championship, but I will always consider a winner because he gave it everything he had without taking shortcuts, without being a cheap bum. He gave it what he could, and I respected that. Didn't try to cheat the system. So I'm always going to have respect for guys like that. The generations before him, the Charles Barkley at the end, yes, but most of his career, he tried to win. You know what I mean? Reggie Miller tried to win. Karl Malone, John Stockton, they tried to win. They just didn't. They ran into Mike. Allen Iverson ran into Kobe and Shaq, and is the only person that beat them that year. They went 16-1 in the playoffs. Whoop-de-doo. Whoop-de-whoop-de-whoop-de-doo, right? That's that new thing people be saying. But, yeah, man, low management, trash. Let's not do that. Stop simping for millionaire athletes when you got to work a 9 to 5 and you work 60 hours a week and sometimes weekends. They just play basketball. Stop being a simp. I seriously mean that too. I'm dead up. If you don't like it, I don't really care, because I know there's a lot of us out here that know how to man up and call it like we see it. We all got responsibilities. We're fathers, husbands, boyfriends, uncles, dads, all that good stuff. And we handle our responsibilities. We work hard. They can work and play some freaking basketball for, like Mike said, 2 to 3 hours a day or whatever. Cut it out. Last topic of the day. Mr. Jon Gruden. Now, Jon Gruden is, if you know football, you know Jon Gruden. He got in a scandal a little while ago. He talked about some black guy's big lips. Said something about people being a little sus. We'll leave it at that. And people got mad and used his emails against him, but it looked like the NFL used it to get rid of him specifically, right? Little conspiracy theory. But he's been fighting in court silently behind closed doors because he was the Raiders coach. Everybody in Raiderland was excited, and then they just canned him because they let go of these emails. And the owner, the Davis family, didn't want to, but they had to let him go because of the backlash. And everybody's soft these days. They don't like to fight through adversity. They always fold to the quote-unquote woke mob, and that's what they did. But Jon Gruden is slowly making his way back. I don't know if he'll ever coach again, but he ain't going away quietly. He's a fighter. If you haven't realized that from listening to him passionately talk about football and life, he's a fighter. He's on YouTube now. I think he's with Barstool Sports. He's finding a way to make an impact in what he loves, somehow, some way. But he's still fighting against the NFL. And so Trey Wingo recently talked about what Jon Gruden was going through. And let's listen to what Trey Wingo has to say here.
Jon Gruden has no interest in settling. Jon Gruden knows he will never coach in the NFL again. He's come to that conclusion. He's a realist, but Jon Gruden is the worst enemy the NFL can have. He has money. He's not motivated by money. He has a giant chip on his shoulder. If you've ever seen him, and I've worked with him, he can be a little angry at times. He is going to see this thing through to the end. And this is a huge, huge development in this case. Now, I got to be clear. I have no idea what's in these emails. But don't you want to know? Jon Gruden wants to know. How is it that in all those 650,000 plus emails, the only ones that were leaked to the press were inflammatory remarks said by Jon Gruden, when again, the Raiders and Jon Gruden were not being investigated? This was not the idea. And it was just like, oh, this is a very simple trick. It's called sleight of hand. But those emails came out, and suddenly Jon Gruden was no longer welcome to the party. So this is a huge deal. This is a very huge deal. And I'm sure, we've talked about this before, I'm sure that there will be attempts by folks at Park Avenue to try and placate Jon Gruden. I believe Jon Gruden in this situation is unplacatable. I don't think he gives a rat's. I think he thinks he was done dirty. I think that he thinks he was done wrong. And he's going to go to whatever extreme he can to rectify that situation, to remedy it. That's a thing that we can manage. Jon Gruden in the NFL is not salvageable. Jon Gruden somewhere right now, upon hearing this news, has that Chucky grin on his face, smiling like he's the most maniacal, evil doll in the world. And I think the folks in Park Avenue in New York in the NFL offices are probably a little nervous right now.
So that's Trey Wingo talking about Jon Gruden. And free my boy Jon. That's how I feel about free my boy Jon. Everybody's always getting freed. It's always talking about free this, free that. Free my boy Jon Gruden, man. Jon Gruden is a warrior. And what I respect the most about Jon Gruden is he's a man's man. You don't like everything that comes out of every man's mouth. But you don't have to. That's okay. No man ever asks you to like everything that comes out of his mouth. But men say what men got to say. And sometimes people just got to deal with the consequences of that. We got so used to canceling people and getting rid of them for a short amount of time that we forgot that, men got to say what men got to say. And everybody doesn't have to like it. I don't have to like it. You don't have to like it. But Jon Gruden, he's going to say what needs to be said. And he's going to fight. And it is crazy how they had all these emails, right? They had all these emails. And out of that 650,000 emails that they talked about, they picked his out and decided to leak them to the press so that they could get rid of him. And if you think for 1 second that was a coincidence, you're a fool. There's no way that was a coincidence. Jon Gruden knows that wasn't a coincidence. But he's slowly starting to win his cases back in court. And what that means is, like Trey Wingo says, he's going to have that little Chucky grin on his face. Because when he's intense about things, and it's funny, he said he can get a little angry. You've seen him on the sidelines. Have you seen him talk, call plays? It's a thing of beauty, man. Like I swear I could listen to Jon Gruden talk in my sleep. And I know that sounds weird, but it's just nice. It's just fun listening to him talk like about football. He's so passionate. If only we could all love something so much. And I hope he loves his family that much. That's how much he loves football. 37 snake right, 7 life. He starts saying all these things. You're like, geez, man, this guy really loves it. That's how you toss it. These two teams really don't like each other. They're really gonna get into it. 37 right, snake eye, 17 fake blitz, 7-2-7. Like he really gets into it. But you gotta love the passion. You admire the passion. You want people like that really love football, right? He's not just an elite NFL coach. Like, he's a fan of the game. He loves the game. And we need that. In a time where everything is fake and phony, we need some real ones around here. And I don't, maybe it's just me. A man says some stuff you don't like, some stuff that's a little crazy, some stuff that's a little bit out there, If he needs a little hand slap or two, fine, slap his hand. But don't take away his entire voice. Don't take away everything from. If you listen, I guarantee you, if you put a little recorder on every man that has made himself something, and men that are working to make themselves something, they say crazy stuff on a daily basis. We're not women, fellas, and women, if you're listening too, we're not you. We don't give a freak about how we sound sometimes. We just say it. Now, I get it. You got to be careful, and you still have to have discipline and couth. But these were emails to the NFL office. All right? This isn't what he was going out there ranting and raving about publicly. If you follow any man, put a recorder on any man, ask that if a wife could be real serious and honest about the stuff her husband says, you'd cancel everybody. Because when men have had enough, we had enough. You don't like what I don't even curse, man. I really don't. For the most part, maybe a slip here or there, but I really don't curse. But let me tell you something. And it's not even about the cursing, but even with that, I don't want everybody to know everything I say to my wife. And I'm not talking about my wife. I'm not yelling at my wife, but maybe about other situations where I say to my wife that I would never repeat. And hopefully, as long as she doesn't snitch on me, I'll be all right. But that's what it is, man. That's what it is. So I hope Jon Gruden wins that case. I think targeting people for your own selfish political gains or whatever it is nasty work. It's diabolical work. The NFL with Jon Gruden in it is a better NFL. Because that's one person you don't have to look at and be like, I wonder if he really likes football. Nah, you know he likes football. There needs to be more of those guys that you know they like football. Love football, right? So that's my take on it. Free my boy John, a.k.a. Little Chucky. So with that said, I truly appreciate your time. Thank you for listening this long. This has been another episode of the J Boyks Pod. This is episode 6. Stay tuned for episode 7. Truly appreciate you for listening this long. Please like, share, and subscribe. Hit the notification bell. Touch that. Tap it to all so you don't miss any of our great, glorious content. And then lastly, you want to make sure that you hang on towards the end of this video for some other suggested videos that we know you will love. Comment in the comment section. I will reply. If you look at any of my videos, I ain't really popping like that yet. And maybe at some point I won't be able to do that. But as of right now, I will reply if you comment. If you like it, comment. If you don't like it, comment. I'll still reply. Let's debate. That's what sports is about. You know how it goes. Again, truly appreciate you. Thank you for listening this long. Very humble. Much love. That somehow you never get over leaving.